strange bird. Reminds me of a wild turkey.
He's just a one-in-a-million kind of guy. I mean, just so talented.
Johnny's one hell of a cook. Yeah, gravy on everything.
He's probably my best friend. I mean, he's as close as every brother I got.
If you've ever watched Barnwood Builders on the Magnolia Network, you know Johnny Jett. The quiet guy in the weathered cap who operates heavy machinery can dismantle a 200-year-old barn with the precision of a surgeon and paints rustic Appalachian scenes in his spare time. At 76 years old, Johnny's been a fixture on the show since day one in 2013, helping preserve America's pioneer-era cabins and barns. But if you've searched for Johnny Jett online recently, you've probably stumbled across something unsettling: his obituary. Multiple obituaries, actually. Condolences from heartbroken fans. Memorial pages filled with tributes to a man who seemed to have passed away years ago. Except Johnny Jett isn't dead. So what's going on? This is the story of how a death hoax turned a private, humble craftsman into the subject of internet confusion.
Bird. Reminds me of a wild turkey.
He's just a one-in-a-million kind of guy. I mean, just so talented.
He's an accomplished folk artist.
Whatever his mind sees, he can just tell his hands to do.
Johnny Jett was born on April 28, 1949 in Chicago, but he grew up way out in Fleming County, Kentucky. His dad, Gene, ran the local water association for over 4 decades and also had a plumbing and heating business on the side. His mom, Leota, stayed home to raise Johnny and his brother Billy, teaching them early on that in rural Kentucky, you pretty much had to know how to do everything yourself if you wanted to get by. Johnny got hooked on log cabins when he was just a kid. He was about 10 when his family went to a state park and he spotted this old cabin from the 1800s. He turned to his dad and asked, "Do you think someone could take one of those apart and rebuild it somewhere else?" His dad said, "Sure," probably not realizing that little answer would end up deciding Johnny's whole career. After high school, Billy was off serving in Vietnam and told their dad to keep Johnny out of the army, said he should go to college instead. So Gene sent Johnny to Morehead State University. That didn't exactly go well. He flunked almost everything except art and literature. "Half the time I didn't even know what the teachers were talking about," Johnny later laughed. So, naturally, he joined the army anyway and served in Vietnam. When he got back, he moved home to the family farm with his wife, Donna, and their baby son. And since Johnny still had that dream of living in a log cabin, it worked out perfectly that his brother Billy had become a carpenter who actually specialized in moving and rebuilding them. Sadly, things took a hard turn. Billy passed away from a heart attack while working on a cabin project at Cave Run Lake. He was still young, and it completely knocked the wind out of Johnny. To deal with the loss, Johnny decided to finish the cabin his brother had started. He took some time off from his job running a backhoe for the Fleming County Water Association and called up his friend Sherman Thompson to lend a hand. The two of them finished the build, and once they did, they realized they didn't want to stop.
Whoa, the way I'd have done it.
That was awesome, Johnny.
I mean, I just took advantage of the situation.
After they finished Billy's last cabin, Johnny looked at Sherman and said, "If you want to, we could go into the log cabin business." And that's exactly what they did. In 1996, they started working with a guy named Mark Bowe, who had just gotten into the cabin restoration game and needed some help finding old structures. Johnny joked, "I asked him how many he wanted, and he said, 'I want 100 by the end of summer.'" So Johnny and Sherman got to work. For years, they drove through the back roads and hollers of eastern Kentucky and West Virginia, tracking down forgotten cabins that were one storm away from collapsing. They'd talk to property owners, take the buildings apart piece by piece, and haul the logs back to Mark's yard. It was long, hard, sweaty work, but Johnny loved it. Every cabin felt like a time capsule. He'd find initials carved into a beam, old tools buried under the floorboards, or small signs of the families who'd once lived there. Talking about one old barn, Johnny once said, "I would have liked to have been here the year this barn was built, to see what happened before daylight." That quiet appreciation for history and craftsmanship was really what drove him. It wasn't just work. It was a way of honoring the people who came before. By 1998, Johnny and Sherman were working full-time for Mark Bowe. Then in 2006, a filmmaker named Rick Kaplan made a short documentary about what they did called Down Home, Where the Past is Present. That little film ended up catching the attention of the DIY network, and that's when things really started to take off. At first, the TV folks wanted to give it the full American Chopper treatment. You know, lots of shouting, drama, and made-up arguments for the cameras. When Mark Bowe told the crew about that, everyone pretty much said, nope. They weren't interested in pretending to fight just to make a show. They just wanted to build, restore, and share the history behind those cabins. For a while, it seemed like that decision meant TV just wasn't going to happen. Johnny figured the idea had come and gone. But then filmmaker Rick Kaplan came back with good news. The DIY network still wanted the show after all. And this time, they wanted it their way. No fake drama, just honest craftsmanship and good people doing meaningful work. When Barnwood Builders finally premiered in 2013, it was an instant hit. The ratings went through the roof, and the network immediately asked for more episodes. Just like that, Johnny Jett, at 64 years old, found himself becoming a TV star. Not something he'd ever planned for, but life has a funny way of surprising you. Back in 2012, a man named Johnny Jett from Houston, Texas, passed away at the age of 62. His obituary went online, like most do, a simple, respectful notice of someone's passing.
We're taking every log out of here. We're going to save them all. Good.
But here's where things got messy. He happened to share the exact same name as Barnwood Builders' Johnny Jett. So when people Googled Johnny Jett, that obituary started popping up right at the top. Fans saw it, panicked, and immediately assumed the worst. Pretty soon, social media was full of emotional posts. "Rest in peace, Johnny. You were such a kind soul. Can't believe our favorite Johnny Jett has gone home to God. God bless you, Johnny Jett." From your fans in the UK. The poor obituary page got flooded with comments from Barnwood Builders fans who thought they'd lost him. People wrote entire tributes, sharing stories about watching him on TV and thanking him for preserving history. It was incredibly sweet and completely wrong. In reality, that Johnny Jett, the one from Barnwood Builders, was very much alive. He was still out there in his work boots, running heavy equipment and taking apart old barns with the same care as ever. But since he's a pretty private guy and doesn't post on social media, there wasn't an easy way for fans to know he was okay. So the rumor just kept spreading. Then in 2021, the whole thing flared up again. More fake reports, more confusion, and once again, fans stumbled onto that same old obituary and thought Johnny had passed away. Eventually, he touched on it here and there, through the show and a few interviews, just to let everyone know he was doing just fine. But by then, the rumor had taken on a life of its own. Even now, if you type Johnny Jett obituary into Google, you'll still find pages of posts from people mourning someone who's very much alive. The strange part is, while people online were grieving a man who wasn't gone, Johnny was quietly dealing with real loss, the kind that never made headlines. Billy wasn't the only loved one Johnny lost over the years. His mom, Leota, passed away in 2010 at 79, and his dad, Gene, followed in 2022 at the age of 91, right around the time Barnwood Builders was filming its later seasons. But the loss that hit the hardest came in 2017 when Johnny's only son passed away unexpectedly. Johnny Eugene, John Jett, named after both his dad and granddad, was born on January 23, 1973, just a year after Johnny and Donna got married. He grew up in Fleming County and, like the rest of the family, got into working with heavy equipment. He joined local Union 181 as an operator, following in his father's footsteps. Then, on October 22, 2017, Johnny Jett passed away at just 44 years old. The family never shared the cause publicly, and both Johnny and Donna have kept those details private. He left behind 2 sons, Nicholas and Jonathan, and their mother, Shelley Hunt. Johnny doesn't talk much about his son's passing. He's mentioned it briefly in a few interviews, but he never goes into detail, and honestly, that fits who he is. He's a man of faith, someone who carries his grief privately and focuses on the people still around him. In 2019, the Barnwood Builders Facebook page shared a tribute to him, calling Johnny an artist, a man of faith, an incredible equipment operator, and so much more. Above all, he's the best friend a man could ask for. They didn't mention his son's death, but they didn't need to. Anyone who really knew Johnny understood the weight he carried behind that calm, steady personality. He'd lost his brother Billy while the two were literally building a cabin side by side. He'd lost his mom, then his dad, and he'd lost his only son, a man who had followed in his footsteps and worked with his hands just like his father taught him. So while strangers online were mourning a man they thought had died, the real Johnny Jett was quietly carrying a kind of grief most people never saw, and still showing up every day to do what he loved. Johnny Jett isn't just a craftsman, he's a legitimate folk artist, and he was creating and selling his artwork long before Barnwood Builders made him famous. His paintings depict rustic Appalachian life, log cabins nestled in wooded hollers, elderly men sitting in rocking chairs on front porches, landscapes inspired by the pioneering history he worked so hard to preserve. He inherited his talent from his grandmother Jett, who was also an artist. When Johnny was young, his brother Billy introduced him to a friend named Cliff Johnson, an artist who was becoming famous in New York City. Billy told Johnson about Johnny's drawing ability, and Johnson asked to see his work. Impressed, Johnson gave Johnny an artist's case filled with brushes, paint, and canvases, and told him to create something. Johnny painted an elderly man sitting in a rocking chair on a log cabin porch. When Johnson critiqued it, he said, "You put too much detail in your work. You need to leave something for the imagination." Johnny ignored the advice. "I didn't listen to him though," he said with a grin. He still has that first painting, and he kept creating art his own way, detailed, meticulous, full of the same care and precision he brought to dismantling cabins. For years, Johnny operated a website called JohnnyJettart.com, where he sold canvas prints, note cards, calendars, and other collectibles featuring his artwork. Fans of the show discovered his art and started buying it, not just because he was on TV, but because his paintings genuinely captured something authentic about rural Appalachian life. As of 2025, the website is no longer active, but Johnny's artwork remains cherished by collectors who bought pieces over the years. It's a side of Johnny Jett that never got much attention on the show, the quiet artist who created beauty in his spare time, channeling the same reverence for history and craftsmanship into paintings that told stories about a vanishing way of life. So what happened to Johnny Jett? The answer is simple. Nothing happened. He's still here, still building, still showing up on Barnwood Builders season after season, operating machinery and dismantling structures with the same skill he's had for decades. At 76 years old, Johnny is the oldest member of the crew. He's the one who's been doing this the longest, who has the deepest connection to the work, who understands the history better than anyone. And despite persistent rumors about his health, or his retirement, or his death, Johnny keeps working. In season 18, which aired in 2025, Johnny appeared in multiple episodes. He guided machinery, dismantled barns, and quietly went about the work he's been doing since the 1990s. There's been no announcement that he's leaving, no indication that he's slowing down. He just keeps showing up, episode after episode, doing what he's always done. Mark Bowe has spoken about how important Johnny is to the operation. "I've spent many nights in Fleming County, usually staying at Johnny's cabin," Bowe said. "I love the community of Goddard and the people of Fleming County. It feels like home. That sense of home, of community, of deep connection to place. That's what Johnny represents on the show. He's not just restoring cabins. He's preserving a connection to the land, to history, to a way of life that most of America has forgotten." Johnny's net worth is estimated at around $400,000, built through his salary from the show, reportedly $50,000 per year, and sales of his artwork. That's modest compared to other reality TV stars. But it's never been about the money for Johnny. It's been about the work, the history, the preservation of something that matters. He still lives in Fleming County with his wife Donna, who he married on July 30th, 1972. They've been together for over 50 years. She stayed out of the spotlight completely, never appearing on the show, never giving interviews. That's by design. Johnny and Donna value their privacy, and despite Johnny's late-in-life fame, they've managed to maintain a quiet, normal life in rural Kentucky. "I'm just a regular guy that God has taken a liking to," Johnny said when asked about his unexpected TV career. That humility, that genuine bewilderment at his own fame is part of why fans love him. Johnny Jett's grandson Nicholas works in the same industry, heavy equipment operation. His other grandson, Jonathan, is carrying on the family tradition too. And Johnny's great-grandchildren, Gideon Creed Jett and Raylyn Grace Jett, represent a fourth generation of the Jett family in Fleming County. The work Johnny started when he finished his brother Billy's cabin at Cave Run Lake has become a family legacy, not just because of Barnwood Builders, but because Johnny showed his son and grandsons what it means to work with your hands, to preserve history, to take pride in craftsmanship. When people search what happened to Johnny Jett, they're usually looking for drama. They want to know if he quit the show, if he's sick, if the death rumors are true. But the real story of Johnny Jett is quieter than that. He lost his brother. He lost his mother and father. He lost his only son. He dealt with death hoaxes and internet confusion and strangers mourning a version of him that never existed. And through all of it, he kept working, kept building, kept showing up to dismantle old barns and preserve pieces of American history. Whatever happened to Johnny Jett? The answer is, he's still here, still living in Kentucky, still married to Donna, still appearing on Barnwood Builders, still operating heavy machinery at an age when most people are fully retired. The death hoaxes will probably keep circulating. Google will probably keep serving up that Houston obituary to confused fans. And Johnny will probably keep ignoring it all, focused on the work that's defined his life for decades. Johnny Jett didn't disappear. He didn't quit. He didn't die. He just kept building, the way he's been doing since he finished that first cabin for his brother Billy back at Cave Run Lake. And at 76 years old, with decades of craftsmanship behind him, and a legacy that extends through his grandsons and great-grandchildren, Johnny Jett is proof that the best way to honor the past isn't to talk about it, it's to preserve it, one log cabin at a time. The internet got Johnny Jett wrong. They wrote his obituary while he was still working. They mourned a death that never happened. But the real Johnny Jett, the Vietnam veteran, the widower who lost his only son, the artist, the craftsman, the quiet guy in the weathered cap, he's still here, still doing what he's always done. And that's the only story that matters. So, what are your thoughts? Let us know down in the comments section. Also, if you enjoyed this video, be sure to like and subscribe to our channel. check out the next video that pops up on your screen.